Hello, you. On today's show, we'll be asking how to get the timing right on your visa documents when you need some apostilles and translations, and which documents need those and which don't. And we'll tell you what the apostille's all about. I'll be joined shortly on the virtual settee beside the virtual pool by two guests today. First of all, our best mate and visa specialist, Chris from Upsticks, and then our new friend, Fabiola from Elite Documents in the US of A. They'll be giving their expert answers to all of your questions. And we have two very important pieces of news that have just come in from the UK consulates, one regarding the ACRO certificate and a document, the other one regarding document translations. So, excuse me, make sure you stick around for those later in the show. So, ask questions, give us a wave, hit the like button, get yourself a mention in the live chat or in the comments below. But first, gather round, it's time for our small but perfectly formed cosmic theme tune. Let's dance. Groovy, baby, very wobbly. Just before I bring in Chris and Fabiola, don't forget to make a note of our website, YouTooSpain.com, where you can find loads of extra resources and links that you need for your move to Spain and for living there. There's a free newsletter at the beginning of every month. You can sign up for that there. Doesn't cost you a penny. And also there's other links in the video description below for services you'll need. And click on some of those and that helps YouTooSpain without costing you a cent. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Speaking of which, look at our merchandise page too, where you can find all of your most popular YouTooSpain catchphrases on various items, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, that kind of thing. If there's any other merch or different colors you'd like to see, then give me a shout and I'll sort it out. That's one of our new logos. So without further ado, let's meet our first guest for the day. It's Chris from Upsticks. Good morning, Chris. Oh, you've gone all dark. He disappeared off the screen. We'll get Chris back in a minute. Let's wait for him to come back. We'll get Fabiola on. Good morning, Fabiola. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm very, very well, thank you. I'm just going to say an extra thank you to Fabiola while we're waiting for Chris, because it's now 4 a.m. on the east coast of America, where she is. That deserves a huge round of applause, I think, for everybody for going the extra mile. And everybody say hello and thank you on the live chat and in the comments below. We're only going to keep Fabiola for the first half of the show because she's going to need some sleep after this, aren't you?
Definitely.
Brilliant. And yeah, Chris is still completely frozen. You'll have to sign out and back in again, Chris. Never mind. We'll get on with questions for Fabiola in this first half anyway, and I'll keep an eye out for Chris. And let's see. Scroll on through what I was going to say. There's a beep from Chris. There you are. Welcome back, Chris.
How you doing?
Oh, very good. Did you lose your signal out there in the garden?
Yeah, strange. Sorry about that.
That's never happened before. Actually, we had last week's show. We were just about to go on air, and I had a power cut. It was
no way.
It was nasty. So we were about 5 minutes late. That's never happened before. Fortunately, Liz, my wife, was in the house, and she tripped the trip switch back on again. There you go.
Live YouTube, eh?
Yeah, live shows and technology. So as usual, we'll ask any Facebook questions in the middle of the show, except for one that we have all about US documents, which I'll ask to Fabiola before we get halfway. And wonderful. Now then, so Chris, to begin with, you more often than not advise people from the UK. So give us a quick overview of which documents are needed for a Spanish visa from there. Very quick summary.
Okay, so we're talking about documents that we need to get translated and apostilles, which we're talking about today. Is the ACRO criminal records check, which is very important that people who are coming, we've had a couple of occasions where people haven't lived in the UK for the past 5 years, so they've needed to get, that's my cat, I'm very sorry.
I was just talking to Fabiola about having animals coming on the screen, and she's got her dog down there as well. So
Yeah. I apologise to my cat, but she wanted to be famous, so there you go. She sat on my lap. Been sat in here for ages, but decided she didn't want to be on YouTube. So we have the ACRO criminal records check. Anything from the birth, marriage, or we'll say birth, marriage, or death registry. Obviously, you're not going to have a death certificate, but the marriage or birth certificate as well would need to be apostilled. And also the medical certificate, if it is issued in the UK, would also need to be apostilled. And any document from a notary. What we've seen a lot of times is, albeit that people qualify for the visa, the consulate, especially London for some reason, asks for affidavits from the notary in the UK. And if they ask for an affidavit, that would also need to be apostilled and translated from the UK.
Okay, that's a good roundup. So we'll go into more detail about UK documents in the second half of the show. But before that, we'll focus on you, Fabiola. Tell us if there are any differences in the documents that you need when applying from the US.
Similar documents, to be honest with you: criminal background checks, marriage certificates, kids, if they have kids, birth certificates, medical records as well. And also need to get translated. Financial statements need to get translated and apostilled. So similar documents that technically have to be translated and apostilled also for the US consulates.
I forgot to ask you, just tell us a bit about your company as well and what you do there. I think you've mentioned it already, but carry on.
Oh, thank you. Well, Elite Documents, we're based in Washington, D.C., and we're facilitators, and that we specialize in documents retrieval and apostille services for U.S.-based clients going abroad.
Excellent. So how long does it take to get the different documents?
Well, to retrieve certain documents, it depends case-by-case basis. Every state is different. Every state can take anywhere from 2 weeks, and I've seen it take as long as 6 months for us to get a specific document. The apostille then from a state can take anywhere from 2 to 3 additional weeks. Now, the FBI report is the only one that's really taken the longest, especially when it comes down to the federal apostille. As we all know, everything is being sent to the mail-in office, and they're the ones processing all the apostilles from all 50 states. So they're definitely overwhelmed. And their website may say 6 to 8 weeks, but in all actuality, it's taking about 12, 13. I think I've seen it as high as 15 weeks.
So you've really got to plan ahead a lot more for the FBI documents.
Absolutely. I would definitely say, I know a lot of people have appointments set up beforehand, and documents obviously have to be taken in when you have your appointment. So a lot of these people, I'm having them call their consulates and let them know, hey, how do we deal with documents that are going to be taking longer than when my appointment is, I'm up for my appointment. Yeah, so things have to really be, you have to have some really good communication with the consulates out here with that.
So
But they do try to work around you. So they do try to help out and say, okay, well, we'll give you a later date, or maybe they can go to the country and still be as a tourist visa, and then later on convert it to what needs to get converted.
Right. So when you speak to the client, first of all, do you talk to them about the order and the time scale and getting the documents back so that they kind of all arrive at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we definitely try to plan for all the documents to be done at the same time. However, it's just really hard to even say we can have a time frame on a specific document, but other documents may come way later. And there's absolutely no way to expedite that.
And is it different in different states?
Every state is different. Yeah, every state, every document really boils down to, the signature on it. Even though it may have the correct signature, or some documents don't have correct signatures and have to get the correct signature in order for them to be able to get the apostille certificate. So there's so much, it's not as easy as saying, yes, every document can get apostille. In essence, they can, but you just got to you have to have the correct document.
And we were talking about whether it's possible for some apostille companies in the UK to rush documents through. They've got kind of an inside track, but is that possible in the US?
No, now I'm working with all these different government agencies because some agencies you work on with them at a county level, some local, some state. So in all honesty, there's really no way to track all that, movement going on. Is we can call and get updates, but every time that you're calling every state agency, you're getting someone else on the phone. So
Mm.
even then, you're probably getting estimates, timeframes.
Crazy. It sounds like it sounds mad. I thought it was I thought it was bad enough in the UK, but it must be a nightmare for some people.
Absolutely, yes. I get every day, I get emails asking for updates, and it hurts to say that every email, like, I don't have good news. It's like we still have to wait.
Mm.
I wish things were better, but this is just the way it is. We have to wait.
Yeah, I have to mention Mike from Mike's Tropical Tech, who's been telling us on the live chat down the side there. I know, Chris, you can't see it very well because you're on a phone, but he's. I advise anybody to have a look at this to see what a nightmare it can be, and I'll see if I can summarize it. He's, I think he's a US citizen, so yeah, his passport country is America, and he's been asked for criminal checks, but he's been living in Thailand for the last 10 years, so he's been asked for criminal checks from there and from America, and he's tried to time the two to be concurrent, but there's a 3-step process in Thailand. And that was done a little earlier than they expected. And the American filing was a disaster. It took 5 weeks in the mail instead of 2. And then instead of 3 days for the FBI to process it, 6 to 8 weeks. And Fabiola, you were saying that's what it says on their website, but it's actually longer than that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Mm.
I would always recommend to give them a call. They say they take about a couple of weeks for them to log in your document. So make sure you're always keeping tracking numbers. You're keeping all the information that you're sending to them because that's going to be essential to tracking down where your document is.
Mm. So that's put him well past the 3-month validity window for the Thai paper. So he's kind of run out of time. So he's building another plan. He says he's got to go to America, upgrade his car batteries, and have Christmas with his son, and then start the FBI check process in January. When he's got that in hand, he flies to Thailand, does the 6-week process, then he flies to Barcelona and files for his visa. This should complete in late 2024. He says he's so beaten down by things out of my control that I want to give up. But he's already bought an apartment, so he's kind of stuck with it. So any expert comments appreciated. What a nightmare.
Wow.
Yeah. So thanks for all those comments. I did promise Mike that we'd get him on the show and talk about it. So stay in touch via email, Mike. Send me that on YouTooSmile. There's some email addresses anyway to contact me in the video description below, and we can talk further about that and see if there's any more information that we can get from you and to you. So what, Fabiola, I'm sure there are tricky cases for you. What are the trickiest ones to deal with?
Trickiest ones. Well, mainly, I think I've seen a couple of really unique cases where people change their names, not legally with courts, but they just do it themselves. They just take an E here and switch it here. And now you're trying to prove your identity to a foreign government that you are who you are. So they ask for the most unique records. They have you dig back to elementary school records,
Wow.
just to try to prove identity. So, always try to just keep the same names as spelled in your passport throughout your whole life.
Mm. Wow. And
Yeah.
what about criminal convictions? Is that in the UK it's the ACRO? They say it's 5 years, but it stays on your ACRO records. Any criminal record, it stays on there for longer than that. They don't actually wipe it off, but it becomes a kind of a past criminal conviction, and that can still stop you. What's it like in the US?
Okay, well, I've seen records as far that have 25 pages long of criminal convictions. And to be honest with you, they were successful. They got their visas, retirement visas in their countries. So honestly, I just think that they're looking out for people that are not wanted felons, perhaps. They're pretty forgiving of people's criminal histories, but just as long as you're not a wanted felon, you're fine.
What classifies it? The felon American term, and I've heard it on TV, but what does that mean? What kind of crimes?
Felonies, anything done at the federal level. So any crime committed at, this federal level, that's when it becomes a felony.
Okay.
The FBI reports don't have anything that's at the state level. The state level doesn't have anything that's at the federal level. And that's how it is. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's good. I think it's, we'll talk to Chris about what it means in the UK. I think it's any violent crimes that are over 5 years old. So yeah, we'll talk about that later, Chris. Doug Boyd was on Facebook asking a question, and this one's relevant to you. Let's get this one up on the screen, Fabiola. I've got so many questions on here today that difficult to find. I'm not sure if you can read that, so I'll read it out and brief it. Basically, he's talking about a couple of documents there that require legalization or apostille, and his question is, he's confused about legalized and apostilled. Is it the same thing? Can I have my medical certificate and financial statement just legalized by a notary public stamp? Is that enough, or do you have to have it apostilled as well?
Okay, so great question. So the notary part is step one of the process. Every document has to have notary in order for them to get the state apostilled, for the exception of birth certificates and marriage, anything issued through the state that don't require notary. But yes, financial statements can definitely get notary, and then it can get the apostilled.
Okay, there you go, Doug. I hope you're watching that. I'll try and find your question and try and reply on Facebook as well later. But if I miss that out, then there you go. That's your answer. I hope you've got everything you need there.
Can I also clarify?
Yeah.
One more thing. The words apostilled and legalized are kind of used all interchangeably. When they mean legalized, it probably means more to the sense of legalized by the embassy, which means you're then taking the document to the Spanish consulate. That's the legalization part. Notary, it's first a stamp. And then the apostille is the certificate issued through the state. The legalization part is what, the Spanish consulate does.
I see. Oh, good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So the apostille is just to say that the person who created the document is the legal entity. Does that describe it well?
It's basically the verification of signatures.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, a birth certificate is going to be signed probably by a state register. Okay, so the apostille certificate would then say, yes, the state of, let's say, Alabama certifies that this person is in fact a state register in Alabama.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it'll say the same thing with the notary. The notary would then, say, any financial statements getting notarized. These will then have a notary seal, and the apostille will say, this notary in this state is then in for. It's in fact a notary for.
Excellent. Okay, so anybody on the live chat have any more questions for Fabiola? Put them down now before she leaves, and we'll get an answer for you. There's a bit of a time delay on that. So before that, Fabiola, is there anything we've missed out that we were going to say?
Nope, I think that's all that we covered.
Yeah, great. Let's see if there's anything on there. Good morning. I've not said good morning to everybody. Good morning. Oh yeah, Robbo had a question. We'll cover that in a little bit of time with Chris can answer that one. That's everything from Mike, and there's so much from Mike. Mathew is on there. He had a question on Facebook as well. It's hot in Brighton today. They've got Spanish weather in Northamptonshire today, Andy Cooper says. That's very good. Spanish weather has finally turned from rain to sunshine. We've got blue skies now. So that's it until about October now, I think. That'll be the last cloud we have. And Susan McGee, good morning. And Emily Mason, good morning. And Janet Stanton, she's just joined after cutting the grass before it gets too hot. Yeah. Ours, we've not been able to cut ours. It's too wet out there. So it looks really, really lovely. Well, I call it lovely and long. It's only about that. So no more questions for Fabiola. So we'll say thank you so much. We are about halfway through the show now, so I'll let you get out and have some rest before daylight. Once again, thank you so much for your expertise and kindness in guiding us through the American side of visa documents. I've put a link. Yeah, I think I've put the link already to your website in the video description below. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Fabiola, then you can do it through there. And so stay in touch, Fabiola, and I'd love to have you back on the show again in the future.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me. Gentlemen, have a good one.
You're very welcome. Everybody give Fabiola a virtual kiss and a hug. Goodbye. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. So, Math says, thanks, Fabiola. Bev's with us. Hello, Bev. Have you booked your trip yet to come for a meal with us? And so, before we go into detail about documents in the UK, let's have our usual short break and a quick message from me and my 3 wonderful alter egos. We'll see you again in about 2 minutes. Are you getting something helpful from this show? Are you enjoying YouTooSpain? Then click on the thumbs up and subscribe to YouTooSpain while you're here. And click on the bell for notifications. It's all free, but it's worth loads of money. I need coffee to keep my picker up. You can donate coffee to us all. There's a link in the video description below, or use the QR code. It'll be in the top left-hand corner of the screen after this message, sweetie. But that's not all. You can support YouTooSpain with a regular monthly amount. It's only a few quid. Oh, he's worth a lot more than that. There's a link below to Patreon, where you can find out what extra groovy things you get by helping out. Oh, I'm all a quiver. One more thing. Get on with it. There's an important guest twiddling their thumbs. All right, calm down. The lovely video watcher needs this. Go on then. There are lots of other links to vital things below. Like what? Well, do you need private healthcare insurance? Yes. Do you need a visa or residency? Do you need to exchange currency? What about finding a property? Or getting tax and pensions advice? Or getting a Spanish mortgage? Or getting documents translated and apostilled? Or getting a medical certificate? Or finding a lovely little app for learning Spanish? Do you need the best mobile phone provider? Or a digital business card so you never need paper ones again? Or do you just want one of YouTooSpain's t-shirts with a slogan on it? You can even get discounts on dental treatments and get a lovely little smile like Scats. All of those links are there, down below. If you can't find them, ask me in the comments. Is that everything, darling? I need to get my nails done. Probably not, but let's get back to the show, shall we? Back to Scats in the studio. I wanted to say that. Oh, stop being beastly, you two. YouTooSpain. Over to you, Scats. Thank you, Scats. And thank you, Walter, Tommy and Dick, for joining us. If you have any questions there in the live chat for any of those characters, well, ask them in the comments below on the video and I'll get them to answer you. Maybe I'll make a little video of their responses. So before we move on to the questions from Facebook and the UK documents, let's have those 2 news updates. So, Chris, first of all, ACRO criminal checks. You've got a hot off the presses news for us, haven't you? Oh, you're frozen again. We've got a frozen picture from you. You might have to go back out and back in again. Well, got a funny signal from you today. We'll just wait. I'm going to have a drink and wait for everybody. I'll say hello to anybody else. Susan McGee, did I say hello to you? And Jenny and GC Misc Collection. So he's saying, I have a green credit size certificate of Registro de Ciudadano issued 14th of the 2nd to 202. We need the full year there. How long does it last for? To grant free passage to Spain. There's a beep from Chris. Let's see if he's back online. Hello, Chris. Are you with us?
Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what's happening today.
Yeah, you've got a funny signal going on.
Yeah, sorry about that. Where were we?
Where were we? Well, I was just saying, let's get to the criminal records check news update. What's the hot off the presses news?
Yes, so basically, first of all, we noticed with the London consulate website that they updated the ACRO information to say they would now accept ACROs which were more than 6 months old. As we know, before it was 90 days. And so anyway, we emailed all the consulates to find out what was happening, and they all confirmed, as I think I sent it all to you. Then now ACROs will be
got one there.
That was the London one. That was the clearest one. But it was quite interesting because the London consulate just confirmed that yes, you can now use an ACRO which is dated from 6 months. Very important, from the date of creation, not the date.
Oh, you've frozen again, Chris. I wonder if it's are you using Wi-Fi signal or are you using your phone data? So if you're using one, then it's gone off screen now. Anyway, he'll be back shortly. Are you using data, Chris, or are you using Wi-Fi? That might be it.
No, I'm using. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yep.
Yeah, I'm using Wi-Fi, but I've just actually switched to data. So see if that helps.
Yeah, data's sometimes better because it's more direct into the phone. There we go. We'll see how well that works. It's going to be a glitchy show.
Sorry about that.
It's unbelievable. You're just down the road, but we've just had a perfectly clear conversation with the East Coast of America. How ironic is that?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind, but when it's been raining, it's been fine.
Yeah. There we go. That's what it is. It's the sunshine. The sun's come out, and nothing can cope with the sunshine. But you'd think by now they would. So I was just asking. Oh yes, there's a question. Let's just answer this one from GC Miss Collection, and this was: have a green credit-sized certificado de registro de ciudadano issued 14th of the 2nd, 2020. He says lower down. How long does it last for to grant me free passage to Spain?
Well, if you're, it depends what passport you're holding. So if you're holding an EU passport, then that's an EU residency card. Okay, so as we always talk about, if you're a third country national, you need permission, and if you're an EU resident, you can just register. So that's why it says registro on it. So if he's if he or she's an EU passport holder, then you'll renew that at 5 years for a permanent one. If you are a UK citizen, then you can switch that for a TIE card within the withdrawal agreement. But if you haven't lived in Spain, it could get tricky now within the withdrawal agreement, because if you haven't lived in Spain for the time, since 2020, so 3 years, in theory, you can just go and switch it. But it's not free passage as such into Spain. That's still a residency card. So if you intend to spend more than 90 days in Spain, or you're a UK citizen before Brexit and decided you were going to spend more than 90 days in Spain, and you had to register. So if you registered and then you've left, then in theory that card's no longer valid if you spend 3 years somewhere else. But if you spend 3 years here, then you can switch it for a TIE card.
Great. So there's a lot of, let me flash this up on the screen. There's a lot of it depends there. So tell us, I'll call you GK. So not put your name down there, but presumably that is an EU. That's an EU card. So you've kind of got, you've not got free passage, but you've got freedom of travel across the EU, and you've got freedom to live and work in Spain. So
interestingly enough, we've had and before Brexit.
Your speech is breaking up again, Chris. Sorry about that. I'm not catching what you're saying. You're breaking up, and you've frozen again. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I heard that. No, you're frozen again. Right, let's just take this one off the screen. I think we've covered that question. Did that cover everything for you, GC? I hope that answers your question. Mathew, you're asking for clarification on this. So the ACRO info is valid for 6 months now from the creation. Did I get that right? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Good. And GC says I spent 6 months in the UK and 6 months in each country to date. Also, yeah, in theory, if you've not spent more than 6 months outside of Spain, then that's still valid. You're still officially a resident. So the question is going to arise of whether you've spent more than 183 days in Spain. Are you a tax resident? That's a kind of a different issue. But in terms of being able to move in and out of Spain, then it looks like you're valid. Yeah. Let's see. So that's the ACRO one. The other news update we had was from our good friend Rochelle from Ask Rochelle Andalucia. This news is less positive than the extra time that you've got for your ACRO check there. Let's just bring it up on the screen so everybody can see it. I don't know, if you're looking on a phone, you probably can't read that. So it's really upsetting actually for Rochelle. I think this is with regard to digital Nomad Visa documents. It may be all working visa documents, I don't know, but she's been dealing specifically with a lot of digital Nomad Visa documents. So she's had an alert, and she says, thanks to Louise Carr for alerting me to the changed requisites. Literally all documents now need to be submitted with a sworn translation, except for the main applicant's CV. We'll get you back on screen in a second, Chris, just after this. And she sent me a screenshot of the actual application screen. So only when you submit a new application is you're made aware of this new requisite, which is terrible for a lot of her clients who've already, paid for the shorter translations that you need, because you have to pay by the page for translations. I don't know whether you're aware of that or not. So a lot of our clients now have to pay an awful lot more for all of these massive full translations, which is a terrible thing. And she's going to reach out to all of her clients individually and tell them all about that and try and work out a deal with the translator. Now, just looking at Chris over there and see if he's working now. Are you with us again, Chris?
Is that better? I've moved.
Very good. I wonder if you've got a different signal over the other end of the of your area there. Good. Well, I can hear you now. So that's that. We had a question from Robbo that was on the live chat right at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you're with us, Robbo, still, but let's just share that one. I took a photograph of it, so screen. So in relation to presenting your bank statements and the consulates, have your savings had to have been in your account for a certain amount of time? As per, he's had a conversation with Chris on last Wednesday. He plans to retire in April 24, but the pension lump sum probably won't go in his account until May. So yeah, what do you say about that?
Great question. Can you hear me now, mate? Are we on? Am I live?
Yes, you're on.
Great. Yes, great question. Now, it's also a misconception that you have to have the money in the bank for more than 6 months. What the consulates want to see is you have to take, so depending on the consulate, so Edinburgh, they ask for 12 months bank statements. London asks for 6, and Manchester, we always say take 6, but generally they throw 3 back at you. What they're looking for is movement of money. So because right at the beginning of the non-lucrative visa period, people, like with residencies here, it happened before Brexit. People were moving money about to basically prove that they qualified, but it was maybe a loan or something like that, so they didn't really qualify. So if you've got any money in your account, which large sums of money, which has moved or either entered or left in the time period of the statements the consulates request, then you just have to prove the origins of that money. So, for example, we had one client in Manchester whose house completed literally 3 days before they went to the consulate, and they were dependent on those funds to actually qualify for the visa. Absolutely fine, as long as you have the proof of where the funds come from. So that in that circumstance, they had a completion statement. We've had people who have had lump sum pension payments as well, and I've just said, look, from the pension provider, just bring your statement which states, you know, where the funds came from. Evidently, it has to match up. And then if there's any sort of you can't have a loan to get a visa, evidently, but if someone we had one circumstance in Edinburgh where a parent had actually given money to someone who only wanted to come for 12 months, that person had to go to notary to sign, and this is talking about what we're talking about today about apostilles. Had to go to a notary to say, write an affidavit to say they would not ask for that money back, believe it or not.
Right. So Robbo says, I'm here. Good. So he's been listening to you. So
hey, Robbo.
If you need any more,
we had a chat this week. Spoke to Robbo this week.
Oh, lovely. And Emily Mason says, thanks again for all the content. Just got my Irish passport. Woohoo! I must buy you a coffee soon. Thank you so much. I look forward to that. And Mathew is saying, oh no, that's I've already answered that one. And oh yeah, further down. Does every UK visa application need a birth certificate? He's doing a solo non-lucrative visa application.
No.
No.
You don't. This is again. You don't need a birth certificate. You only need a birth certificate for under 18s. So if you've got a dependent who is well, actually, I'm saying under 18, under 21. If you've got a dependent, it can be up to 21. Then you'd need a birth certificate to prove they're a dependent of yours, or documentary proof that they are your dependents. They might be in the case of maybe an adoption or something like that. If someone's not your birth child but dependent, then you would need that proof. That proof often needs notarizing and an apostille. But for adults, unless there's a circumstance where you have to prove a previous surname, then you would need a birth certificate.
Yes, like Fabiola was saying before, if there's been a change in your name details, that would be important, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have. Don't forget that so if you're a foreign resident or going to be a foreign resident in Spain, then your national ID document, which is for us our passport, is the valid document. Yeah, so everything rides off the back of that. Yeah, so we quite often have it where people have had NIE numbers, and it's been mainly for people who've got married and changed their surname, and the NIE number may have been in their surname, in their previous surname. You know, they've got married, they've updated their passport, and we've quite successfully put those details on the application form for a non-lucrative visa, and then it's been updated during the process because your national ID document is your passport. Sometimes you have to offer an explanation in a document. We call it an escrito. So if you have to explain something to the authorities, you have to write a letter to explain what it is, which is known as an escrito, which doesn't need an apostille.
No. Okay. Here's an interesting question. Mathew Stagg, good morning, Mathew. Is it worth paying for an apostille service if time is not critical? I think, well, all these documents are time critical, so it's a balance, isn't it, Chris?
That's a good question with the latest update, isn't it? Because I mean, at the moment, I mean, the whole thing regarding the ACRO has come because ACRO, is basically collapsed at the moment. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's happened, but the ACRO Criminal Records Office has suffered a cyber attack, which basically took their lovely online process of filling out a document and making payment off. So all you can do now for an ACRO criminal records check is basically email them. They email you back with a Word document you can then fill out. You don't have to print it and fill it out manually. You can actually fill it out using the Word document. But you still have to then convert it to PDF and then add your photo to the end of it and send it to them. So it's and it's taking a lot longer. Before we had, so when we say date of creation and date printed, when even 6 months ago, it didn't really matter because the date of creation and date printed would be a day or two apart. Okay,
Mhm.
so it wouldn't matter. You did say, okay, we're going to go with data creation. That's it. But now we're seeing ACROs which have got a date of creation and a date printed 3 weeks apart. So they're creating the document, but they're not printing them and sending them out for 3 weeks.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
There we
So
go.
and that's a crucial thing for people's timing. So if you've only got 90 days and 3 weeks has been taken up by this, even more so at the moment, as we know, we're sort of what we call in the tax rush. So there's people who are very wary of capital gains, who've sold properties to fund visas, for example, and are now coming in because it's like July is around the corner, and then they're going to spend 183 days. When you're doing that kind of calculation with your documents, it can be quite tricky.
Mm. Well, yes. So there you go. There's no one answer to that one, Matthew. It depends.
It depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Math says thanks. Oh, Bev. Oh, yeah. Interesting question. Do we need ACRO for residency, not visa? So we're talking about for an EU passport holder.
No, so you don't need an ACRO criminal records check if you're an EU passport holder. Also, once your visa has been approved, you don't need the ACRO to come here and get your TIE card. If that's if maybe that was the question. And there is one circumstance which was very strange, and it's quite important to make light of it. Was we get quite a few, evidently, what we call like EU third country national applications. So we've done shows on it where, like you did yourselves, where one person is Irish, for example, because that's quite a popular passport to get if you've got heritage. And then there's a Brit that rides off the back of that. We recently had, and this mainly came from Maria, a request for an ACRO criminal records for the British citizen, which you don't normally get that. It doesn't say anywhere in the requirements you have to provide a criminal record. So when we dug down deep into it, because we only get 10 days to hand these documents in, it turns out that the Ministry for Justice, their website or whatever the immigration use had collapsed. So basically, because when you make an application in Spain, they check the Ministry of Justice to make sure you haven't got any criminal records. They checked that. They couldn't get onto the page. They just sent us a letter saying, no, we want an ACRO criminal records check. When we questioned it, they actually came back to us and said, no, that's a mistake. We want a Spanish criminal record check. So anybody who's going through the EU family members process who suddenly gets asked for an ACRO and you're there scratching your head, it's worth contacting the immigration on there. They have a platform in which you can actually send them a message and saying, why on earth do you need this? Because they came back to us and said, oh, we don't need that. We need a Spanish.
Fair enough. Bev saying, yay, as if she's got a really big criminal record. I'm not going to ask whether you have.
Now I'm really worried.
Sounds like
we're just supposed to go to dinner with Bev. So should I be
yeah. Is she a gangster? There we go. And so another one from Math before we get on to. We've got quite a lot of questions today. And if you're still waiting for documents, can you get your appointment changed to help? As it's my understanding, there's a 3-month window for how long the documents are valid. Good question.
So again, sorry, you broke up there. So can you get your appointment changed?
Yeah, can you get your appointment changed basically to in case your documents are out of the window? You can't kind of.
Yes, you know what, you can now with Manchester and London. They issue you a code, and you have up to 3 days before in which you can change your appointment. And with Edinburgh, it's manually done. So with Edinburgh, you can send them an email. They send you back. Believe it or not, Edinburgh sends you a Google Calendars link for your appointment. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. But if you need to change the appointment, then you have to contact them again via email, and Edinburgh say, right, we want to change the appointment. Whereas with London and Manchester, who use a system called Booked It, you can actually do it on the system. So yeah, you can change it once you've. But you wouldn't really need to with Manchester and London because they have a system where you apply for a code, and once you have that code, you can keep checking on the calendar.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't need to hit the button on an appointment until you've got your documents ready anyway.
Great. This is one that question on the screen now that Math sent on Facebook. So I don't know if we've answered that one and already. Do the documents need to be dated within 90 days before the appointment date at the London consulate? And can you email the document?
Every document has to be valid in terms of in date at the time of your appointment.
Okay. And can you email the documents as attachments to the consulate prior to the appointment?
When you apply for your appointment, you have to email your app. So with London, you have to email your ACRO and they'll give you the code.
Mhm.
With Manchester, you have to email a photo of you holding your passport. You have to email your medical certificate. You have to email your ACRO certificate. Manchester's gone a little bit crazy at the moment. And Edinburgh, you don't have to email anything. You just ask them for an appointment, give them your name, your number, and where you live, and they'll give you one.
Right. There we go. And Maths
So it's
in.
different. The different consulates are different for their requirements to issue appointments.
There we go. And let's see what else we have. Just while I'm looking for the next one from Facebook, Janet saying, can Chris recommend any private clinics in the Torrevieja area where I can get a valid medical certificate whilst I'm in Spain?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we have. We work with Smart Clinic over there, and if you just Google Smart Clinic, they'll give you a certificate.
There we go. Very good. So next one on screen. Let's just take that one from Janet off there. Jeff Simpson saying, hello, the DGT does not allow you to make a booking. Help. This is Malaga. It's just a blank page. I said to him, try again. Is that the best thing to do, Chris?
You have to go outside with a big placard and say, it's not an appointment.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll work.
Protest. No, I'm joking. Don't do that. Please don't do that. No, yeah, just keep refreshing. It's unfortunately it's a bane of our life when suddenly things aren't working. And you keep refreshing. We've had it this week with the Mercurial government system where they just couldn't get on it, just wouldn't let, and then suddenly, boom, it popped to life. So yeah, keep trying.
There we go, brilliant. Yeah, it is the most.
I'm joking.
It is the most glitchy thing. Yeah, so don't protest. And we had one from Cindy Brindley, old friend Cindy. She was a big fan from ages ago, and it's actually been answered by our friend Carolyn, who's also been on the show, who's from Canada and came over on the self-employment visa. She's teaching languages down on the coast, not far from me in Nerja. And so let's just answer that very quickly for anybody who's watching from Canada. How long to obtain marriage cert from BC Canada and have to have it legalized, plus where to have it legalized? So the answer to that was from, let's get Carolyn's answer on the screen, which is, there's got to be a quicker system of doing this. Question 2B. And there it is, a big long answer. Everything gets authenticated through Global Affairs in Ottawa. Remember that will also have to be translated and then go to the Spanish consulate to be legalized. Her experience from a Canadian perspective is that dealing with Global Affairs is the longest part of the process. You may wish to use a company who will oversee every step in a timely manner, especially if you live outside of Ontario. My documents kept stale dating. That's a good word for it, isn't it? Running out of time. So I finally sucked it up and paid someone to supervise the entire process. Lots of info here. What I'll do is that's the international website there that you'll need for Canada. I will put that in the link below, so you don't have to copy that whole thing off the screen. It's not all on there anyway. So thanks. Huge thanks to Cindy and to Carolyn for answering that question. And there we go. She was also asking, what's the order? This is a basic one that we were going to ask you anyway, Chris. What's the order of applying for documents in general?
Where's the chat? I'm definitely adding stale date into the Upsticks repertoire. I can tell you that now. That's just
Absolutely, I like that. Yeah.
That was good. That was good. I like that. Yeah. So I mean, before what we used to say in terms of the order was because the documents had a 90-day validity. We'd always say start them 6 months before. 6 weeks before your estimated appointment date. Okay, so if you've got you always have to have, should we say, a target appointment date. You don't always meet it, but you need to have that point because that target appointment date, so before you go to the appointment, dictates when you're going to start the documents, and it also means that you can plan afterwards up to the 90 days it could take to get your visa. If you use 6 weeks, that should give you a time in the UK I'm talking about now to get all the documents, get them legalized, translated, but it also gives you a window of 6 weeks at the back end in case something goes wrong and you need to rely on those documents and they don't go out of date. So in terms of order, in the order of getting the documents, it used to be get your ACRO first because that takes forever, to come through. But now we've got 6 months to do that. So you can bring the order of the ACRO. You can start that now. I would say always give yourself a bit of time at the back end. So maybe start that now 3 months before your application, and then it's marriage certificates if you need one. Then it's definitely worth. From the UK, they normally come through pretty quickly if you've been married in the UK. Birth certificates, you don't actually have to get updated, but you do need the long form birth certificate, as it's definitely worth noting that some people only have short form birth certificates if you're coming with minors. And then obviously if you're getting a medical certificate, one thing that's very important is that the person who's signing the medical certificate from the UK has to be registered with the FCDO. Okay, so if that person's not registered with the FCDO, what happens is when you send the documents for legalization to get the apostille, then they'll reject them initially and they will send an email to that person so they do register their signature, so that can delay the process as well. So really, I mean, you want to be looking at an absolute minimum of 6 weeks before your estimated appointment date to start the documents.
Great stuff. An interesting question. Does the apostille need translating? So yeah, which comes first? Is it the apostille and then the translation?
No, in the UK, you can actually do them simultaneously now because the apostille comes with in the Spanish language as part of the subtext. So the apostille itself doesn't need translating. So most translators will work from good PDFs or good scans of documentation. So basically, you can do two. So if you've got all your scans of the documents that need translating and apostilling, you can email normally a translator good copies of the documents that need translating, and you can send the originals off to get apostilled at the same time.
Great. And I see some people are trying to put in pictures in the live chat, but they always come through as words. So there's I can't see any of those pictures. That's a shame, because one says from GC, he says, "I'm now a fan too," and then it says "Pride person Earth intersex." I'm very interested to see what those 4 pictures are. And Caroline's actually on the live chat. Morning, Caroline. Stale dating is my legacy to the world. I think I'm going to get a T-shirt printed. I still owe you a T-shirt. I'll get one of those done. I'll bring them both down. And Maths put pride flower rainbow heart. Oh, that's very nice. And Mike say morning, all just back from a week in La Alpujarra property hunting. Ah, yes. Can't believe that the weather was better here in the UK for most of the week. We were thinking of moving to the Alpujarras. Very nice. Costa Tropical up to into Granada province. Very nice.
I'm going to Almuñeca today. It's one of my favourite places. I'm going to go visit family there. But the Costa Tropical is amazing. It's just it's crazy how where you guys are on the coast, when you go left instead of right, how the landscape can change. So
yeah, we're right on we're right at the mountains where it changes from into Granada province. Very nice. So yeah, I quite like going down. I've got a gig tomorrow in near Friciliana, which is kind of just round the corner.
Nice.
and the next mountains. So nice one, Mike. And what's this one from Charlene McGregor? New on the live chat. Good morning. Hi, my TIE card has expired and they say there are no appointments for this yet. So I'm here living in Spain with an expired TIE card. Any advice? What region are you in, Charlene? Is my first question.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute nightmare getting appointments. And one thing that has happened lately, and is that they broke up this ring of criminals who are getting appointments for using the bot system, and they are really so hopefully that's going to free up a few more appointments. But they're really on it. We had an appointment in Madrid, which I have to hold my hands up. I forgot to cancel.
Yeah.
Right, so we had an appointment. We managed to get an earlier appointment, and I forgot to cancel this appointment. They phoned me up to check that it wasn't a bot appointment. They phoned me up and said, "Who are you? What company do you work for?" And I said, "Oh, I apologise profoundly. Evidently, you should never have an appointment that you're not going to attend because that could be an appointment for someone else. So please cancel. That was my fault." But just to let you know, that they are on it at the moment because of all these illegal companies who've been selling appointments.
Yeah, brilliant. That is very, very good to see.
Yeah.
And Carolyn's laughing at what we said. There you go. and Charlene says she's in Ibiza. They say there is no such appointments for this yet.
You can go to any island on the Balearics, though. Don't forget. So if you look at an Ibiza, I know it's a bit of a pain if you have to go to Menorca or something, but you might have to. If you jump over to Mallorca or Menorca, you should be able to get an appointment there. It means you've got to have a nice trip back to pick up your card, evidently. But if it's desperate, you can go to any of the islands on the Balearics.
Get yourself a speedboat. That's the way.
Yeah.
I've not been to any of the islands yet. I must take a trip out. What's your favourite one, Chris?
You know what? It was Ibiza until we went to Menorca, and when we went to Menorca in winter, it was. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, as well, we're really lucky because here from Malaga, and I believe from Alicante as well, you can get in winter. You can get cheap flights. So it's very quiet. It's not the tourist season, but when we've done all three of the islands from here, and I don't think for all four of us we've paid more than 150 euros return for flights. So we don't go in summer because then it would cost you a fortune. But to have a little bit of explore in the winter, you know, if you live in here in Spain, it's fantastic because we're only an hour and a half away as well, aren't we? From
Yeah, it's very nice. I love being close to Malaga Airport. You can get to anywhere, and if you can't quite get to anywhere, then you just got to fly to Madrid or Barcelona, which are really, really quick flights, and then you can get to anywhere from there.
And we've obviously got the Abbey now to Madrid, and I was looking for the other day. I was looking for flights to Marrakesh from here because I've never been, and it's even in July. It's like 50 euros return. It's crazy.
Yeah. We flew that throughout. Yeah, it was lovely. Robert was talking about criminal records, and I was going to ask this question later on. What about criminal records that are over 5 years old? Let's put Robbo's question up. Just realized I have a criminal record from when I was 21. 36 years ago, I was bound over to keep the peace. Had nothing since. Will this be an issue? I did a criminal record check before to go to the US, and it was clear. So
I've just done the maths. Now we know how old you are.
You've given it away, Rob.
Yeah, so no, look, what this is always a big worry, and it's another common misconception that anything over 5 years old isn't counted. No. So in the UK, and I'm talking now in our experience, over the last 3 years of doing non-lucrative visas, if you have anything other than no trace or no live trace on your ACRO criminal records check, then it can be a problem with the consulates. We had one that was more than 50 years old, and eventually it got stepped down. So what you have to do is, if you have something that shows up on your criminal records check, your ACRO criminal records check, is actually apply, if you can, because in not all circumstances can you, get it stepped down. And to do that, you have to email the ACRO police check people and request that they take it off, and then it will say no live trace rather than the criminal records. So
Yeah, which might still raise a question, but
we haven't really had any problems, you know, with no live trace. But you definitely, if you've got something on your criminal records, it's a problem.
And I'd say if it's violent crime, then that's really what they're concerned with. They don't want somebody who's violent.
Generally, and again, if it was working before, the ACRO criminal records check used to have a step down list. So it used to say, you know, what can be stepped down, what can't be stepped down. But at the moment, the website's not working because the police had a cyber attack, which is quite worrying. If it's being custodial or violent, then a lot of times you can't get that step down, which is a huge problem.
Great. I definitely had some more questions on the. Yes, let me bring that one up. Let's remove that from the screen. I can't find where Robbo's question is. There it is. And we'll have a look. We had an anonymous one. Let's find that. It was on YouTooSpain community. Can someone help clarify? Does the P45 and pension stuff require translations? Says, I know there was a video on what needed to be apostilled by Chris at Upsticks, which is really helpful, but can't work out what actually requires a certified translation.
Yeah, again, another great question, because the consulate websites don't actually clarify that. At the moment, as it stands, because we know these things change, none of the consulates are asking for translations of your pension details or the P45. Now, the reason I say that is because Edinburgh seem to want it, then they don't want it, then they do want it, then they don't want it. Definitely the P45 doesn't need a translation. In terms of your proof of financial stability, London and Manchester that haven't really ever asked for proof of translation, whereas Edinburgh have in the past. It depends who you get the desk.
Okay, that is good to know. Anonymous, let us know who you are. By the way, anybody going on the YouTooSpain community and wanting to put a post on there, I know this is something that they've put in the After Brexit in Spain Facebook group or Facebook page, whatever it is. They're saying don't be anonymous unless it's something where you really have to, that there's people that you don't really want to know about what you're doing. If you want to surprise people that you're moving to Spain, for example, and you want to kind of not tell everybody straight away, then use anonymous for the right reasons. If you want to share with everybody, it makes it a lot easier for people doing groups and pages to actually share information with everybody, because if you remain anonymous, then there's information that you can't give to those people and information that people can't see from you. So use that anonymous thing properly. That's not a criticism, but there we go. Barry from Unitech says, good morning, guys. Sorry I'm late. We'll watch on catch up. He has a note from his mum, so that's fair enough. Thanks, Barry. Emily Mason, do you know of any companies like Upsticks that can help with a move to Ibiza? Well, I know one. It's called Upsticks. You can help, can't you, with that?
Yes, yeah, we can help. We can help. Now, what we have, if we're talking about non-lucrative visa, then yeah, we can certainly help. What we don't have on Ibiza is somebody on the ground to actually go to the police station with you. But if it's in the winter, I might just go anyway.
Yeah. I'll join you. I think let's all go.
Yeah,
Let's
go.
do
it. Let's
do a team trip.
Yeah, it's not fair really, because we have the wonderful Tom. I always, I never really give the team a shout out, and they're dedicated. Not only are they do they do their job, but they go above and beyond absolutely for our clients. I was sat yesterday in the afternoon, and my colleague Jane, who should have really not been working at all, was looking after a client, and that comes from the heart rather than wanting to work, and here in Malaga, also my other colleague Tom, he does all the horrible appointments where he'll probably get 5 or 6 stacked up and shouted at the policeman, and then when we get a nice one in Batha, which is a 2-hour drive away, I'll go and do it. So it's not fair, really. So I'd like to thank them for all the things they do. But I'll be going to Ibiza, not Tom.
Fair enough. They are all lovely people. I've only met Tom. I was going to say just the once, but no, he was at the Christmas meal as well.
There's the Christmas meal, isn't it, as well? Yeah, and Jane as well.
Yes. And Carl says, I had my appointment at Manchester 10th of May, but I haven't heard anything back yet. Are there any issues that would I've heard by now?
10th of May.
It's only a month ago.
No, that's at the moment the way that Manchester's working. Unfortunately, just gonna have to wait. I don't know what's happening at Manchester. I'm going to be honest. London and Edinburgh are doing, should we say, really well at the moment. We're getting the visas out. Manchester must be under new management or something. I don't know. It's gone crazy over there.
There we go. And Emily says, haha, that would be great. I'm now EU, my partner UK. We're moving March, April next year. There we go then. Don't even need a visa.
Don't even need a visa. Brilliant.
Bev says, do you have anybody in Fuerteventura? That'll be a nice trip, yeah.
Looks like we're going on a lot of trips there, Scats.
Yeah. Yeah, what the hell? We can do it. And GC, I appreciate it's a guess, but do you gentlemen think Spain will be granted permission for certificates or visas to extend the 91 80-day scenario? That's going to be like an extended tourist visa. What do you think, Chris?
No, I think that was there was a bit of a ruse about this, was there, about 6 months ago when certain areas were coming up for political elections and someone said it, but no, I don't think they're going to change the Schengen rules.
Yeah, there's no real need for it. I mean, I know that British tourists and the swallows, they'll be saying, yeah, of course, there's a need for it. We want to be in our houses. But in terms of politically in Spain, there isn't really. And the argument that they need the British tourists to stay here for longer, they've just got tourists coming in from all over Northern Europe, and it's not making that much of a difference, I don't think, on the money that's coming into Spain touristically.
If you look at it from an administrative point of view, you brought up earlier the what Rochelle mentioned there regarding the different requirements now for the DMV. We see with the non-lucrative visa constant changes, all the time, which they're referring back to exactly the same law, but now we're going to change our interpretation of it. So I can't see that ever happening, unfortunately, because they're too busy complicating our lives, interpreting things differently on a monthly basis at the moment with the actual platforms that we have to use to get people residency.
Yeah. Math's just asked a question that he asked early. Sorry, I missed that one, Math. Is it better to get a medical certificate from my doctor in UK or go to Spain to get one?
Again, very, very important, because as Manchester, London and Edinburgh didn't, but Manchester decided to reject about 2 months ago, and there's still a lot of people waiting for their appeals to come through. Certificates that weren't issued, which matched the entry and exit stamps in passports. So, i.e., that you used to be able to get Spanish certificates online, which didn't require translation or apostilles. But now you can only get a Spanish certificate if you're actually in Spain. So when you go to the consulate, if you've got a Spanish certificate, medically it has to match your entry and exit date in Spain. Okay, if not, if you're in the UK, then you have to get a UK certificate. It's very, very important note.
There we go. Robbo, how many ACRO checks can you do? I'm thinking of doing one now just to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, get one done now. I mean, it's how many 50 quid do you want? 55 quid do you want to spend, really? You can do as many as you like, but each ACRO check costs money. So yeah, they don't have a limit on how many you can do, and that's something we do quite often. If there may be a doubtful check, we say, look, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get that first, check what it looks like, and then we can move forward from there.
And that you've got more time now, maybe that's easier. You've got the whole 6 months.
I think in the overall, the grand scale of things, when you're getting a non-lucrative visa, albeit that it might be an initial wasted 50 quid, shall we say, if you have got any doubts, then I think that's a great investment. Just get it first, and if it's going to run out, it runs out, and just get another one.
Barry says there's probably more chance of being able to see a doctor in Spain, Matt, but no, you'll need it.
Yeah, I mean, what you have is on the medical certificate side of things, is I think we mentioned before, where in Spain, one thing you have to be very careful with in Spain is that the certificate has to come on a official document. So you get an official certificate, which then the doctor fills in. The certificate is €3.63. In different provinces around Spain, most of private doctors would actually have them on site, but sometimes I've had it where, especially in Catalonia and places like Valencia, where people have to actually go buy the certificates, take them to the doctor for the doctor then to fill them out. Okay, you can normally buy them in pharmacies. In one case we had in Mallorca, and I didn't realize they actually had to go to the official college of doctors because it was the only place in Palma de Mallorca that would sell them a certificate and then take that certificate to the doctors. But yeah, you know, normally you can actually get them quite easily here. We've sort of got a network of private doctors that we use around Spain. Whereas in the UK, if your GP is willing to sign a certificate or do your certificate, as we said before, you have to make sure that they are registered with the FCDO. Otherwise, you have problems at the back end when you come to apostille the documents.
Great. So, does anybody have any more questions on the live chat? I've done all of the Facebook questions now, I think. And while we're waiting for those, is there anything else we've not said, Chris, that you can think of?
I wrote notes, so here we go. Let me bring them up there because I moved now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
No, so we're talking about documents. I think there's a couple of things there, and I haven't got my notes. What I'm doing with those was with the apostilles is you have to be careful with notarized apostilles. So a lot doesn't really happen now. Right at the beginning of the non-lucrative visa process, a lot of people were paying notaries to get documents apostilled, which means there's an extra step in the process, and the document which actually gets the apostille is the notarized document. Now, that apostille isn't valid. You can't get a notary to then apostille your documents. You need to go directly to the FCDO or use a company to do so, because a notarized apostille isn't accepted. So if you've got a notarized ACRO criminal records check, for example, then the apostille that is stuck to that is verifying the notary and not the actual certificate. So that's not allowed. But in some circumstances, when people have had to do declarations, so we've had at times, mainly with London, people have had to go to a public notary in the UK to declare they're not going to work if they haven't got the correct documents to prove they're not working. If, for example, and this might be a demographic that we don't really talk about a lot, but it does happen where one member of the family is working abroad, and they may have a spouse with a child who wants to go and live in Spain instead of being in the UK. But they're going to be residents, but the other member of the family is working abroad, they're not going to be. In those circumstances, they've had to go to notary to declare that they give, it's not to give the right, but they accept the fact that that person's going to get residency in a foreign country if there's a child involved. Okay, so that document would have to be notarized and apostilled, and that circumstance they are verifying the notary signature.
Great. Bev is saying, do you need medical certificate for residency?
Not EU. If it's a visa, yes. If it's non-EU, no.
Okay.
Sorry, if it's EU, no. If it's a visa, yes. Unless it's a golden visa in Spain and you're applying within Spain, and you don't need one.
But you don't need it for your TIE appointment if you're.
Oh, sorry, no, you don't need your TIE appointment, and you don't need that once. So again, if you've got British passport, you need permission now to come. So that permission is granted by the consulates. They do the due diligence, and they give you the visa, and then the verification is when you come to Spain and you go to that appointment within 30 days of arriving, or book the appointment within 30 days of arriving. and you don't need to prove anything there apart from where you're going to live. You've paid the taxes to register.
Yeah. So that is, my appointment was very easy, I think. So yeah, Bev, you're going to have the similar thing. You on are you Irish passport? I keep forgetting. I think you're just coming in on EU, aren't you? And Susan McGee, she's looking ahead to the renewal. I think. What documents do I need to start to check out for changing from? Oh, she's changing from NLV to EU residency for a year 2 residency in Tenerife. So have you just suddenly got on?
That's an interesting one. There's probably 2 points to make there. So from NLV to EU, always wait until you're in the renewal period to do that. Okay, so it's better to do that. Otherwise, you have to then renounce your initial residency. It can be a pain. And then all you have to do is qualify as an EU citizen, and it does leave a lot of the head scratching in extranjerias where you turn up and you're like, right, I did have this passport, but I've got this one now. Now I want to register, but it can be done, and it has been done on many occasions where people have re-registered, changed their nationality at the extranjeria, and it can be actually done at the police extranjeria, the foreigners office, rather than having to apply to immigration first. So for that, you're always going to need, like with all EU residencies, you're going to need to prove that you've got your healthcare in place. So if you had that for your NLV, then that'll be renewed. You'll have a new certificate, unless you're working now because you're EU. You could be self-employed or have a contract. You're going to have to prove that you can support yourself, so you've got your financial means, and then in most circumstances they'll ask you for a padron certificate as well to prove where you live.
Excellent. Expat in Matharon, that's Sean. Good morning. You just joined us towards the end of the show, but you can always watch back the video later on. And Bev says, yay. And she says, yeah, Damien is Irish. I'm Kiwi. That's good for clarifying. Yeah, so you're EU. Perfect. Can't wait to meet you. You're going to bring Damien for the meal.
Where's the steak? Come on.
Yeah, it's got to be a steak, isn't it? Tangled Up in Blue says, can I print off bank statements from home to prove income? He's going to London Consulate.
Oh, that's again another good question. Right, so the default is that you have to take bank statements which have been stamped by your bank account, by your bank, sorry. But they're verified now. We know that the consulate's very old school. So initially, no, you can't. You have to go and get statements, and if you can get them stamped, even better at your branch. If you can't get statement stamps, which is now generally what happens, then you at least need original statements which are issued by the bank. It even looks like it comes in a letter, so they've sent them to you. What we've done in those circumstances is had original statements, and then if there's been a gap between the original statements and when you go to the consulate, we have printed that off just to show the 20-day gap, and you can verify the originals, and you've got a print of all the way up to the point of the appointment. If you can't get those, then you really need something, because a lot of people bank online now. They have online accounts. You really need something which basically states that it is an online account and you cannot get your statements printed or sent or stamped. So there's certain online accounts where you're gonna have to approach your bank or your provider and say to them, can you send me something which says we will not produce what you're looking for?
There you go. Math's just asked that question anyway, so that's good. And Bev says, no, not bringing Damien. There we go. So that's all of the questions on the live chat. That's all of the questions from Facebook. And that's all of the questions I've got for you, Chris. Oh, Tangled Up in Blue's got another one. How quickly can I get an appointment in London once I send them my ACRO and application? Oh yeah, how long does it take?
Not too bad. They're running in a couple of weeks. So the fantastic thing with the ACRO change is that now, because it's not going to work with Manchester, but with London, you only need your ACRO to apply for your appointment code, and then you can jump on the calendar and see when the appointments are available. Then obviously bearing in mind that I think that code expires after 4 months, so you would have to apply again. But with the 6 months now that the ACRO's allowed, you can really get that done, get your code. And even now, people who we would be worried in this period because it's summer. So we know that August is a bit of a nightmare. We always talk about that last week of July, first week of September, August window, that's 6 weeks, a nightmare. Now people can start ordering their ACROs if they're thinking of coming in autumn, get their code and then jump on and look for their appointment.
Brilliant. Math says, thanks for all the information. Things are getting clearer. Have a good weekend, everybody. Yes, and thanks for all your questions on the live chat. It's been a fantastic show. Thank you again to our wonderful guest in the United States. She's probably gone back to bed now because it was 4 o'clock in the morning when she was on the show. That's above and beyond the call of duty there.
Yeah.
And Tangled Up in Blue saying thank you, guys. Don't forget to click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, so you'll be the first to know what's coming up each week on the live shows and the midweek videos. If you have any questions now, everybody, put them in the comments below on YouTube so that everybody gets the answers that you need, rather than on some Facebook group that you've clicked on the video from there when I've shared it there. And next week's show, I'm actually going to be, this is going to be relevant to what I was talking about with about on Rochelle's note. I think we've got on a Spanish lawyer, that Lucia, the Spanish lawyer that we had on a few months ago, and we're going to be talking about the golden visa and the digital nomad visa. There's a few things we'll talk about that, but of course the translations that you need to do, that's going to come up on that show as well. So hopefully we'll have an update on that for you, and see if there's been any clarification or any extra rules, because I'm sure lots of people are going to be complaining about that. I'm sure that Rochelle will write them a stiff email and find out if we get a response, and maybe we'll get Rochelle back on the show as well.
It's crazy. I mean, what they must be going through at the moment, say, I mean, it's not only, what you've got to remember as well is that it's not only just English to Spanish translations. It's people of other nationalities, and there's an abundance of translators who do English to Spanish. You know, you can always find somebody.
Yeah.
But you have to give them time to do the translations. You know, you can't send somebody a translation and expect it the next day at the moment. You know, so August is coming up when most translators go on holiday. And just with the NLV, it's really important to make a note that when, and this happens to us all the time, the consulate initially, they don't normally ask for many translations of the proof of financial stability, but on renewal, every single document that you present to immigration here has to be translated. So if you have a complicated passive income structure, you know, you might be, for example, a rental income. We had one recently, rental income from the UK. Absolutely fine. You can use that for passive income. But just bear in mind, if that's going into an account in the UK, you're going to have to get all your statements translated and the contracts and the agreement that you have, which proves that you're receiving that income.
I just have to put this one on the screen. Actually, I forgot this final question from Peter Newbury from Facebook. Can't find the link to the official translator you mentioned, but we live in Turkey. So how do we go about getting documents to the translator? And can we get Turkish to Spanish? How do you do that, Chris?
Yeah, so you need to look. There is actually an official list of translators published by the Spanish government. And if we get any sort of different translators of English to Spanish, we always go there and look at who is the person who is registered on there. So
have you got that on your website?
Yeah, we will have somewhere, and I'll send you that list anyway. I'll send you it. So basically, it's like a PDF. It's a PDF that they keep updating. So translators have to be registered. They have to have qualified, and then they have to be registered. Like it's like I suppose they call it the bar, don't they, with lawyers? So like college, gestores, and everybody in the profession has to be registered on what they call their college, and then the government publish a PDF with people who are registered, and it stipulates what language they translate from.
That's great. Yeah, I keep finding it, and then I think my official list of translators, the link got removed from one of the consulates, and then I had to find another one, and now that's gone. So that's why it keeps disappearing, Peter. So so if Chris, you send me that one, then I'll make sure that,
Can
that
we
the link.
protest and say stop changing the links? This is so annoying.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, it happens all the
oh,
time, doesn't it? It's terrible.
yeah.
Half of the links on my
My poor
website.
colleague Jane, she pulls her hair out because every time she goes to a link for a form or something, it's gone. We have to change it again.
Yeah, she sent me a note saying all of your links are out of date because she's obviously lost it at your end, and she's gone to my website to try and find it, and mine's out of date as well. So we lost it at the same time. But yeah, so this is a plea to the consulates and the government websites.
Absolutely.
When you change your link, just change it on the website. It's such an easy thing to do. All the IT guys would know what to do, but the IT guys need the instructions from the guys in the department who are changing the details as well. So
yeah,
there you go. And GK, what's your name, by the way, GK? He says, I'm going to ask my AI assistant to work it all out and translate the data. He says that is a joke. Yeah. Because you need an official one, but why not? That would be interesting to see what how good the AI is these days. Google Translate's getting an awful lot better. I've used it up.
You were translated on GTP, whatever it's called.
Yeah. No, I've not done that.
It's actually quite a good translator, believe it or not.
Yeah, they're getting to understand because you need to look at a whole Spanish sentence really to know what's going on. And they used to translate a lot more literally, but now they check out
in a different dialect. So you could never get a Madrileño, Castellano sort of translation Spanish. I say like original Spanish. It would, if you translated something on Google Translate, it'd be like a Mexican or an Argentinian was saying it.
Good. Right. My iPods have just said, no, we're running out of charge. So I've got my headphones ready just in case. But anyway, we're at the end of the show now. So, GPT-4 is what GC's got, and 5. That's his AI assistant.
Does 5 exist now? I thought it was only up to 4.
Well, no, got a new one by the look of it.
Blimey.
But it's always tomorrow. What does that mean? Yeah, it's always tomorrow. So I've already announced what we're doing next week. I'm not sure what we're doing in 2 weeks, Chris, but that's when. You might be back in 2 weeks, or it might be 3 weeks, because there's a show coming up. You've got to watch, everybody, on July the 1st, because there's a good chance I'm going to be being filmed at the same time by the crew from what are they called? Brits.
Bargain Brits in the Sun, isn't it?
Bargain Brits in the Sun, or Bargain Brits in Spain. Yeah. And they're talking about being here right when we're filming. So we'll have Chris on that show, and if that works out, and that'll be exciting, won't it? And,
that'll be new. That'll be new.
Yeah. So why not ask some questions in advance that I can ask? I'm not sure if I'll be able to talk to the crew. I'm not sure if I can get them in this room. I'm going to have to move out some furniture because it looks like I'm in a great big garden, but no, this is a very small, thin room I'm in. So I'm going to have to throw some things outside in the sunshine. Oh, and Barry says they filmed us for that in Benidorm. There we go. So
that Barry from Unitech, we always talk about Barry because he said, I'm not allowed to say it, Mark, because that video got banned, but he sent me a present once and we're still using them, Barry. My daughter is very, very happy.
Oh, excellent. So ask us questions in advance. You can do that on the YouTooSpain Facebook community. The link is below. And we'll see you all next Saturday morning at the regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain or Central Europe. So that's all for this week. Somebody pass around the apostille cookies, and peace and love to you all. Well, there you go. I have to do the signs. And let me just put up have we got a peace and love thing? We do. We have a peace and love thing. And there's a peas and fluff one as well. And there's also a let's dance. Yeah, have a look at these t-shirts. You can get a peas and fluff shirt. Oh, that's the one. I think that's the one I'm going to get. Or maybe a let's dance. And I've got to get one of the mugs as well. You get some in really bright pink and bright green. That's quite nice. The pink hoodie. So yeah.
Did you spot the deliberate mistake on my YouTube video announcing today's live?
No, what did you do?
I put the wrong date, so I thought I did really well. I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to get a video out to announce. Yeah, definitely, I've got it right this time. And I put the 9th on because I had the day.
Oh no! Oh, I'm sure people will work it out.
And on everything, I put the 9th, which was yesterday, and I went. And then someone said to me on Scats' video, it says the 10th. Are you the 9th or the 10th? I was like, what are they talking about? About 11 o'clock last night, I was looking.
Oh well, never mind. People know. Most people turned up anyway.
Yeah, the link was in there, but I did change it as I couldn't change the actual video itself. I did change the thumbnail.
Fabulous. Okay then. So that's all for us. Now get ready for one final message from everybody here at YouTooSpain, and we'll see you all next time. And look out for the Wednesday video as well that comes out at 5 o'clock on Wednesday early evening. I'm not even sure what it's going to be about yet. I have to start thinking about that now. And we'll have a think about what's going to be on the next show, Chris.
Yeah, we're in 3 weeks. I mean, we could do we'll have a think. If the TV is going to be there, we'll have to do something spectacular, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay then. So bye for now, everybody. And here's the final message.
Bye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.